Yo, what is up everyone? Bungie absolutely cooked in episode Heresy, and we are so back. In today's video, I'm excited to share with you 3 incredibly fun Arc Titan builds. The first build will allow you to permanently use your empowered melee ability and regenerate your health. The second will have you feeling like Thor himself with the amount of lightning storms you'll be creating. And the third will get you through any type of in-game content with infinite ability spam and regeneration. To start off this trifecta of Arc builds, I'm going to throw it back to a build video I made last season that is even better this season. This build starts off with the Arc subclass and the Titan Super Thundercrash. Thundercrash is going to provide good ad clear, insane damage to bosses, and just be really good to use when you get into a tight situation. For our abilities, we are going to be using Rally Barricade, Strafe Lift, Ballistic Slam, and Pulse Grenade. Rally Barricade is going to be a super key part of this build. We are going to hide behind it and use it for cover. We are going to use it to reload more quickly and generate stacks of Bolt Charge. If you guys don't know what Bolt Charge is, you've probably been living under a rock, but Bolt Charge is Bungie's new Arc 3.5, whatever you want to call it. But what it does, it basically gives us a lightning bolt that strikes anytime we get max charges, and we can proc that by using a grenade, our melee, an arc weapon. It does a ton of damage and is insane for ad clear. Moving along to our melee ability, we are going to be using Ballistic Slam, and we are going to infinitely have this off cooldown, and you will see why later in the video. Ballistic Slam is going to be used for insane ad clear, and it's also going to generate Bolt Charge for us. We can also proc Bolt Charge, as I previously mentioned, with our Ballistic Slam, which makes it do even more damage. And for a grenade, like I mentioned, we are going to be using the Pulse Grenade. We're going to be using this to do lots of ad clear and generate lots of Ionic Traces so that we can have our other abilities off cooldown as much as possible. Now let's move into our aspects, guys. For our first aspect, we are going to be using Touch of Thunder. In our second aspect, we are going to be using Storm's Keep, the new Titan aspect. Touch of Thunder is actually what we're going to be using to give our Pulse Grenade Ionic Traces. We're also going to be increasing our Pulse Grenade's damage and time that it is on the playing field when we use it. Now let's talk about Storm's Keep. Storm's Keep activates anytime you cast your class ability, and it grants a moderate amount of Bolt Charge stacks to you and nearby allies. While you stand behind your barricade, you and allies gain stacks of Bolt Charge over time, and your weapons can discharge these max stacks of Bolt Charge. You can also discharge them with grenades and melee abilities, which is awesome. Up next, let's talk about our fragments. The first fragment we are running is the Spark of Ion. Spark of Ion allows us to get a Ionic Trace anytime we defeat a jolted target or we defeat a target with a Bolt Charge. This gives us a ton of Ionic Traces and improves our overall ability regeneration a ton. The second Arc fragment we are using is the Spark of Discharge. Arc Weapon Final Blows have a chance to create an Ionic Trace. Collecting an Ionic Trace grants you a stack of Bolt Charge. This means we are going to be getting our Bolt Charge that much faster, which means we are going to be electrocuting enemies all the time with our Lightning Bolt. We're going to pair this with our third fragment, the Spark of Frequency. Melee hits increase your equipped weapon's reload speed for a short duration, while amplified, the effects are increased and you gain increased stacks of Bolt Charge from all sources. So we are going to get even more Bolt Charge stacks. We are going to generate them constantly and annihilate our enemies. And for the fourth fragment, we are going to be using the Spark of Resistance. While surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. And we're going to be surrounded a lot because we're going to be diving in with our Ballistic Slam. So we're just going to want to be as tanky as possible and stay alive as much as possible. For weapon recommendations, I really recommend using a fusion rifle in your primary slot, followed up by a weapon in your secondary slot that can proc jolting feedback, like Vantage Point. This thing is awesome, and you just generate a ton of Ionic Traces anytime you proc jolting feedback. For your heavy, the Thunderlord is a great weapon for this because you can just throw down your barrier and sit behind it, and then just spray your Thunderlord and generate a ton of Ionic Charges Bolt Charges because the Thunderlord has a great Bolt Charge perk itself. Before we get into the nitty gritty and talk about all the armor mods, let's talk about what really makes this build awesome. The thing that makes this build incredible is the Insurmountable Skull Fort Exotic Titan Helmet Piece. This Exotic Titan Helmet Piece has a perk called Transfusion Matrix. Final blows with arc melees trigger health regeneration and fully restore a melee charge. Melee hits grant arc melee energy. If you guys pair this with Ballistic Slam, you get infinite melee, you get infinite health regen coming back to you, and you literally never die. This helmet is one of the most fun items in the Arc Titan subclass that you can use. I have a ton of fun using it, and I hope you guys really enjoy it as well. Now let's talk about our armor mods. For the helmet armor mods on this build, I really like running double hands-on and harmonic siphon. Double hands-on is going to increase our super regeneration anytime we get a melee kill, and harmonic siphon is going to create an aura power anytime we get a kill or rapid kills with our arc weapons, which we'll be using a lot of. For our gauntlets, we're going to be using firepower and heavy-handed, so that anytime we get a powered melee kill or a powered grenade kill, we're going to generate orbs of power so we can regenerate our abilities and heal off of them. For our chest armor modifications, we're going to use whatever resistance mods fits the encounter. It actually makes a huge difference when you're running harder content like dungeons or, Grandmaster Nightfalls. So just make sure you have on the right resistance mods so you can stay alive and be a good teammate. And for our leg armor mods, I like running Better Already for health regeneration and double absolution so that anytime we pick up an orb of power, it reduces all of our abilities cooldowns. Then for our Titan mark, we are going to run double distribution and special finisher. Double distribution is going to reduce our ability cooldowns anytime we use our class ability near targets, and special finisher is just going to grant us special ammo anytime we use a finisher on an enemy, which is awesome to have and get out of tight situations. For this build, since we are going to have infinite melee anyway with our basic abilities and our exotic armor piece, we want to run 100 resilience and 100 discipline so that we can get those abilities off cooldown as much as possible and be as tanky as possible. Normally I'd put seasonal artifact mods here, but since we're doing 3 builds in this video, I'll put them at the very end after the last build video, and since they're all arc builds, so we're pretty much going to be using the same artifact mods for every build. Now let's get into the next build in this arc trifecta. Normally, I'm a Thunderclap hater, but Bolt Charge actually has made this build absolutely insane. And I feel like I am nuking everything with this build and would almost consider it the best arc build of the season if I hadn't tried the last build in this video, but we will get to that build later. This build starts off with the arc subclass and the super ability Thunder Crash. Thunder Crash is going to make us super durable anytime we cast it and provide good ad clear and insane boss damage. For the abilities in this build, we are going to be using Rally Barricade, Strafe Lift, Thunderclap, and Pulse Grenade. We are going to use Rally Barricade as a form of defense so we can stand behind it, be durable, and reload extremely fast. We're also going to use it to generate a ton of Bolt Charge. While this is going on, we are going to be using Thunderclap to unleash a devastating blast in front of us. The longer we hold the charge for Thunderclap, the more damage it is going to do. And then we're just going to be using Pulse Grenade to generate orbs of power when we clear ads with it and do good damage when we use it on bosses. For our aspects on this build, we are going to be using Knockout and Storm's Keep. Knockout is going to infuse our melee attacks with arc energy and increase our melee range anytime we critically wound a target or break their shield. Knockout also amplifies us and restores a portion of our health anytime we get a kill with it. Now that we've powered up our Thunderclap with Knockout, we are going to power up our Rally Barricade with Storm's Keep. Anytime we cast Rally Barricade, we are going to generate stacks of Bolt Charge. And anytime we sit behind our Rally Barricade that we just casted, we are going to generate Bolt Charge stacks over time that we can discharge using our weapons, our grenades, or our melee ability. Anything that is arc, we can use to discharge our lightning bolts. Now let's get into our fragments. The first fragment we are using is the Spark of Ions. Spark of Ions is going to allow defeating a jolted target or a target with Bolt Charge to create an ionic trace. This is going to increase our ability regeneration a ton. The second fragment we are running is the Spark of Discharge. Arc Weapon Final Blows have a chance to create an ionic trace. Collecting an ionic trace grants you a stack of Bolt Charge. So now any ionic traces that we get, we are going to get stacks of Bolt Charge, which means we are going to get tons and tons of lightning bolts. Our third fragment is the Spark of Frequency. Melee hits increase our equipped weapons reload speed and stability for a short duration, while amplified the effects are increased and you gain increased stacks of Bolt Charge from all sources. So anytime we are amplified, we are going to get increased stacks of Bolt Charges, which means we are literally just going to be generating Bolt Charge after Bolt Charge after Bolt Charge. And for the last fragment, I am sticking with the Spark of Resistance. While surrounded, we are more resistant to incoming damage, and we get 10 extra strength to decrease our cooldown on our melee ability. Now for weapon recommendations, I'm going to try not to sound like a broken record, but stick to using a fusion rifle in your primary slot. In the secondary slot, you can also switch it up and use something like the Indebted Kindness. I also recommend the new LMG from this season, the Watchful Eye. This thing has some awesome perks, and it just goes really good with the Arc subclass. Before we get into armor modifications, let's talk about our exotic armor piece, the Point Contact Cannon Brace. These Titan gauntlets are insane. They are going to absolutely empower our Thunderclap to nuke characters. They have a perk called Hammer of the Gods. Defeating targets with your Thunderclap melee restores melee energy. Targets near you when you use your Thunderclap suffer lightning strikes and become jolted. Being amplified increases the damage of these lightning strikes. So we are going to just have a lightning storm due to our Thunderclap, and this is great for dealing with those pesky Grim, those pesky Husks, and just destroying everything in the Dreadnought. Now let's talk about our armor mods. For our helmet armor mods, we are going to be running Double Hands-On and Harmonic Siphon. Double Hands-On is going to increase our super ability regeneration anytime we get a melee kill with our Thunderclap. And then Harmonic Siphon is just going to generate an orb of power anytime we get multiple rapid final blows with our arc weapons, which we will be utilizing a lot in this build. On our gauntlets, we are going to want to run Firepower and Heavy-Handed so that anytime we get an empowered melee final blow or a grenade final blow, we are going to generate orbs of power. On our chest piece, as always, stick to whatever resistance mods that fit the encounter you're running. Moving along to our legs, we are going to be running Better Already and Double Absolution so that we can regenerate health anytime we pick up an Orb of Power and reduce all ability cooldowns anytime we pick up an Orb of Power. And last but not least, for our Titan Mark, we are running Double Absolution and Heavy Ammo Finisher so that anytime we use our class ability, all of our other abilities are reduced. And then anytime we get a finisher, we are going to get special ammo back. This build is absolutely disgusting, and anytime you use your Thunderclap, you will obliterate any wave of enemies in front of you. This build is sick, guys, and I hope you enjoy using it. But now, let's get into the best art build I have seen in a while. This build is absolutely insane. You will have your abilities off cooldown constantly, you will clear any ads that you see, and you will have a ton of survivability paired with insane boss damage. Like our previous two builds, this build starts off with the Arc subclass and the Titan Super Thunder Crash. Thunder Crash is used to do insane damage, and it's good for getting out of a pinch or just clearing a large group of ads. This build pairs our arc abilities Rally Barricade, Thunderclap, and Pulse Grenade with the Titan exotic armor piece Heart of Inmost Light. The Heart of Inmost Light has an armor perk called Overflowing Light. Using an ability, Grenade, Melee, or Barricade empowers the other two abilities. Empowered means abilities have faster regen. Melees and Grenades do more damage, and Barricades have more hit points. Pairing this item with our three abilities, we are able to cast them constantly and have at least 3 barricades up at all times. We can also spam our Pulse Grenade and Thunderclap safely behind these barricades while generating huge amounts of bolt charge. For the aspects on this build, we are going to want to use Touch of Thunder and Storm's Keep. Touch of Thunder is going to allow our Pulse Grenade to create ionic traces periodically as it damages targets and increases the damage over time. Now that we've empowered our Pulse Grenade, let's empower our Rally Barricade by using Storm's Keep. Anytime we cast our class ability, we get granted a moderate amount of bolt charge stacks to us and nearby allies. And while standing behind our Rally Barricade, we and nearby allies get more stacks of bolt charge, allowing us to generate bolt charge indefinitely. Paired with the Heart of Inmost Light, this allows us to cast our Rally Barricade at least 3 times at all times. It is absolutely insane. Jumping into our fragments, the first fragment we are running is the Spark of Ions. Defeating a jolted target or defeating a target with bolt charge creates an ionic trace. Our second arc fragment is the Spark of Discharge. Arc weapon final blows have a chance to create an ionic trace. Collecting an ionic trace grants you a stack of bolt charge, which means we are going to be generating an absolutely insane amount of bolt charge. For our third fragment, we are going to be running the Spark of Shock. Your arc grenades jolt targets, and anytime we kill a jolted target, we are going to get amplified. For our fourth and final fragment, we are rocking the Spark of Magnitude. Your lingering arc grenades, which this is our Pulse Grenade, are going to have an extended duration. So our Pulse Grenade is going to do more damage and create more ionic traces. For weapon recommendations, I am absolutely going to sound like a broken record, and I'm sorry guys, but I am using the Riptide with Chill Clip, the Vantage Point with Jolt Feedback, and then topping it all off with the Thunderlords, because this gun is absolutely broken this season, and Bungie knew what they were doing, trust me. For our helmet armor mods, I ran Double Ashes to Assets and Harmonic Siphon. On my gauntlets, I ran Firepower and Heavy-Handed so that we could create Orbs of Power anytime we get melee final blows or empowered grenade final blows. For my chest piece, I ran whatever resistance mod fit the encounter I was running just so I wouldn't die and I stayed alive. On my leg armor mods, I ran Better Already to regenerate as much health as possible and Double Absolution so that anytime we picked up an Orb of Power, we reduced all ability cooldowns. And for my Titan Mark, I stuck to my guns on Special Finisher so that anytime we got a finisher kill, we would generate special ammo for the whole fire team, and distribution on the other 2 slots so that anytime we used our class ability, it would reduce our other abilities cooldowns as well. Now let's talk about our artifact mods. For my artifact mods in the first column, I ran Unstoppable Fusion, Overload Machine Gun, and Piercing Sidearms. And the only reason I ran Piercing Sidearms is because I kept throwing in the Indebted Kindness to see if I wanted to use it, but, you know, I ended up not. In the second column, I ran Overclock and Load. While you are amplified or have a bolt charge, arc weapons gain increased handling and reload speed. And in the third column of the artifact mod, I ran Hold the Line. While surrounded, machine guns and glaives gain increased reload speed and stability. Final blows heal you. And Die Electric. Defeating arc debuff targets grants bolt charge. Boost. Rapidly defeating arc debuff targets spawns an orb of power and heals a small portion of health. In the fourth column, I ran Flashover. When you gain maximum bolt charge, you also become amplified. Lightning bolts deal more damage. And then I also ran Dreadful Finisher just so I could get more special ammo, but I really didn't need it because of the armor mods I was running. And in the fifth and final column, I ran Heavy Ordnance Regeneration. Dealing sustained damage to targets with a heavy machine gun or rocket launcher grants damage resistance and increases grenade and melee regeneration for a short time. I also ran Defibrillating Blast. Stunning champions grants maximum stacks of bolt charge, triggers an arc bolt that heals you, and jolts combatants that it damages. These are some awesome artifact mods, and they worked really well with any of these builds. Let me know in the comments what builds you guys are using. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I tried to go in depth and give you 3 different arc builds that you can have a ton of fun using in the new episode Heresy that Destiny 2 has put out. Thanks for watching, guys. If you want to see more videos like this, click the video on your screen. And as always, peace!